Hello and welcome to this episode of Better Together Tuesdays. I'm your host, Joel Barrett, and I'm a business and development consultant at the Missouri SBDC at UMKC. Together, we're going to make business simple, even in complex times like these. This webinar series is in response to many of the questions and challenges that we've heard about on a daily basis, not only related to COVID-19, but really just as we do business with small business owners all across the Missouri region. So why this seminar right now? We heard a quote at the beginning of this quarantine. Shelley Seifert, who is the chairman and CEO of First Bank in St. Louis, said, "Surviving and thriving in a crisis is rarely a solo event." So we kind of latched onto that and said, we believe we're better together. And it's Tuesday. So we're going to divide this webinar into three segments. They're unequal segments. We'll start with focus, where we talk about the issues and things that are happening. Then we'll talk about what we can do differently in the innovate segment. And finally, we'll talk about engaging with some other resources that are available to you. So let's get started. Today, I'm really excited because I've done a number of these webinars, and they've all been with experts in their field. And I have three experts in their field because they are in the trenches doing the hard work of running a small business. And all of them have demonstrated during the challenges of COVID-19, quarantine, all of the things happening, they've demonstrated the ability to take a fresh look at their business and respond to the market limitations and challenges and make a pivot, as we've heard. You probably have heard the word pivot used a lot during this time. And so we're going to talk with these three clients and listen to them, learn from them, find out what worked, what didn't work, what is working, maybe what might need to be changed. And let's learn together. So I want to introduce each one of these. They're all clients of the Missouri SBDC at UMKC. We'll start with Trish Fitzsimmons. And Trish, tell us a little bit, just very briefly, about your business.
Thanks, Joel. I own Yarn Social. We are a brick and mortar retail shop for knitters, crocheters, people who love yarn. We offer classes, we host social hours where people get to know one another, and we're really all about building a community.
Very nice. And we'll talk a little bit later about what you've been doing differently during this time. Next, I'd like to introduce Will Brown of Will Brown Interiors. Tell us a little bit about yourself, Will.
Thanks, Joel, for having me today. I'm excited to be here. I own Will Brown Interiors, which is a local boutique interior design studio in the Kansas City area. And I focus on helping the well-traveled empty nesters sort of transform their homes so they can host memorable events, sort of repurpose their existing home. So as their grandkids come back, they sort of have this sort of redefined place to come back and relax. And so that's kind of been the sense of my business, but I think we're going to get into it and how I've sort of had to pivot away from that a little bit.
Thanks, Will. And then finally, Laura Novang. Laura, tell us about you and your business briefly.
Hi, Joel. Thanks for having me on. I started Fatty Head Keto Crust about a year and a half ago officially. I worked in television for 30 years and decided I was done with that and had started doing keto on my own to help with some health issues and doing some keto meal prep, which I'm not the best cook, but I came up with this one particular thing that people love. And it's a very low carb, gluten-free pizza crust that does not have any cauliflower in it that people can use in place of.
Hallelujah.
Yeah, we've seen enough cauliflower crust. And there's a lot of confusion because cauliflower is the vegetable for keto that people replace rice with. So there's some confusion that the cauliflower crusts out on the market are low carb, and they're not. Those are for gluten-free people. So I have this really cheesy, yummy, delicious, savory crust that's in, I'm a wholesaler to about 10 restaurants around Kansas City, and then it's also in the freezer section of about 70 grocery stores.
That's really amazing. I love hearing that. In fact, I'm going to start with the first question with you, Laura, since you've got the floor right now. What was the moment that you realized you need to rethink some portion of your business model during this COVID-19 crisis?
When all the restaurants closed. It's pretty obvious. Here I am, supplying. I do my own distribution for restaurants. I am signing on with Cisco here. They're going to take over that for me, which is going to be amazing. But yeah, when COVID hit and all the restaurants were out of business, I'm like, Danger, Will Robinson. So yeah, my sales dropped literally about 90%. And so I thought, oh, I just kind of sat stunned for a little bit, you know.
And what did you end up doing?
Well, I started paying attention when restaurants started doing curbside. I was looking around. Am I talking about my pivot yet?
Yeah, go ahead. That's
Okay.
fine.
So instead of not being able to serve restaurants in with the massive amounts while they're dining in, I decided to offer some of my smaller shops an actual take and bake pizza already done that was more than just my crust, which is what I normally sell. And so this allowed people to come up and do curbside, pick up dinner, have something easy, and still allow them to support local businesses. So I went from just creating this crust, which was my only product, to creating actual take and bake pizzas.
That's amazing. I was so impressed when I heard that. Trish, the very name of your business includes the word social. And when suddenly we're being socially distant, tell me what you did to combat the limitations that suddenly were enforced upon you.
Luckily I found out about Zoom fairly quickly. As I said earlier, we host in the past we hosted in-person social hours where people just came and hung out in the store. We have a nice seating area. We'd work on whatever projects you're working on, get to know one another. So we quickly pivoted to hosting those on Zoom. And those have been a big success. There were definitely some learning curves. You know, when I think back to March versus the social hours we have now, it's definitely a little smoother, you know, getting people used to not all talking at the same time, that sort of thing. So that happened very quickly. We also, you know, even before Mayor Lucas issued the stay home order, we decided to close to the public. So we began using Zoom for virtual shopping. So people could set up an appointment to call in. We'd have a video call, talk about whatever it was they were looking for, be able to show them some options. And we were doing that primarily because we didn't have an online store yet. And even when we did have an online store, we didn't have photographs of most of what we sell. So obviously choosing yarn for a project, a lot of it has to do with what color, sort of the texture, that sort of thing. We couldn't have a substitute for being able to feel what you're wanting to buy, but we could at least help people better visualize what it was that they were looking at buying. So that was kind of our primary pivot, was just bringing the social through a Zoom interface, and then also interacting with people one-on-one for shopping. And then also just interacting, also through our social media and things. I think I ranked up kind of my personal participation in that and having more conversations and things via social media.
Well, you live up to the name social, that's for sure. I feel like that sounds like you created a very personalized shopping experience, which is something that just having photos on a website, that's going above and beyond just being able to click on a photo.
Yeah, and we're improving the website every day. So we're undertaking a photographing effort and getting everything posted. But even still, we still host virtual shopping. We communicate by text, by phone, by email. You know, we're happy to send pictures to people, whatever it takes. Some people need a little more personalized service, and luckily we've got the time and ability to do that. So thank goodness for technology. It's really been a big help.
That's a great story. Will Brown Interiors, which means typically, traditionally speaking, you go into people's homes. Tell us a little bit about the challenges you faced and what you've done to combat those.
Yeah, so yeah, you're right, Joel. So I offer full service design and also e-design. And those were sort of the two lanes that I sort of provided my services. And I knew there was trouble ahead when my clients put their projects on pause. And they were just going to say, let's just see what's going to happen. And addition to that, was noticing that other workers in the industry were still working, so contractors could still work. The trades could still work because it was, you know, deemed essential. So I knew that, okay, well, I got to figure something else out. So I really kind of dug into the e-design portion of my business, which I had done before, but it wasn't something that I had pulled to the forefront. And I had worked with certain clients out of state, and it was a little clunky because I wasn't using any sort of Zoom type of services or anything like that, but we were making it work kind of through email. So it forced me to kind of really think about what the customer experience would be from end to end. And so that's been a way that I've been able to do that. So I also, in addition, have joined a couple of networks, so Home Advisors Network as well as Bark platform. And I went in and kind of expanded my services to do online and virtual as well. So that has allowed me to get a lot of connections that I wouldn't have otherwise gotten. And a lot of them are actually coming from out of state. So, you know, I could be helping folks, you know, in New York or San Francisco. It really doesn't really matter. So, you know, I tend to like the in-person because I really get to know and establish a relationship, of course, with the clients. And that's my preferred way. But, you know, this definitely has kept the doors open for me. And so I also took a little bit of time to sit back and think about how is going through this experience, this pandemic affecting, you know, my clients, and really thinking about their state of mind. Because I think part of the home is that it really can be a sanctuary. So I got to thinking, it's like, well, what if I could offer some sort of service that I could help transform certain spaces in the home to be more, you know, calming, more of a sanctuary. So I just recently finished up a new service called Tranquil Room Transformations, which is a virtual consultation. It's a 90-minute Zoom session, and I will, you know, have the client fill out a questionnaire. We'll touch base and we'll kind of do some online connection. I'll go away and kind of work on some floor plan ideas. And, oh, there it is there, yeah. And then we'll come back and kind of work through that space. And it's something that doesn't necessarily require buying new furnishings. It's really kind of working with what someone might already have. And just
Okay,
also,
what are you doing this? Like, sorry, got a little echo there. Are you doing this via like an iPhone, or how does this work?
well, I'm doing it via Zoom. So yeah, so what usually happens is that we'll get onto an initial consult. I'll ask them to the client to either use their smartphone or their laptop to kind of show me the space. So they'll navigate through the space to kind of show me the area that we're going to focus in on. And then we'll work on coming up with solutions that will transform the space. Also during this session, I thought, you know, what could I do just in terms of continuing to grow? And so I've actually decided that I was going to become a certified feng shui consultant. So I've actually been kind of in the middle of classes right now because I wanted that to be sort of an additive service to kind of segue into this virtual consultation. And it's going to be something that I will definitely continue in my business because it's always been something that I've been interested in anyways. So now it's great that I sort of getting that formal training behind it, and then I can offer that. And I think that's also going to be a way that I can kind of stand out in the Western region from a lot of other designers. So
really awesome. And you'll see I've got Will's website pulled up here. I'm going to keep these websites up while I talk a little bit. Trish, how much of what you're doing do you plan to keep on doing if and when things go back to, quote, normal?
So it's always been a goal that we would have an online shop, and so that will absolutely continue. We get people from all over the country. I'm still not entirely sure how everyone finds us, but we have great word of mouth. So certainly friends tell friends, and we carry yarns and things that maybe some people can't access where they are locally. So we'll definitely continue with that. We anticipate continuing with things like virtual shopping. I mean, it's a low cost. Zoom is not that expensive. So I feel like, you know, continuing having that as an option, or maybe even looking into things that like a Google Meet or that sort of thing. I don't see any reason to discontinue that. I think so long as people are interested in using it, it's a nice tool to offer. And then even our social hours, I think I very much look forward to meeting again in person. But we also have people who are fans of the store who don't live, within driving distance of a shop. And so I'm definitely open to continuing virtual social hours, 1 or 2 times a week, in addition to some in-person ones. Um, it again, we're all about community, and community can definitely exist in lots of different spaces, and online is absolutely one of those spaces where we find that community can exist.
We've certainly learned that this year, haven't we?
Indeed.
Laura, when the things that you've added to your business, it seems like maybe those are temporary, but what do you think you've learned from this, and what might you continue?
Well, they are temporary, but they led to another. I'm in partnership with Old Shawnee Pizza, who I sell my crust to. And during his pivot, he decided he was going to mail his pizzas to people around the country. And I asked, well, when there's pizza on every corner, why would people want your pizza? And he said, well, it's mostly for people who grew up in Kansas City and they want a taste of home. And I said, I get people asking me probably 3 to 4 times a week, can you ship? Can you ship? Can you ship? And shipping frozen stuff is so expensive, but he's already figured it out. So now I'm like, well, let's make some keto pizzas and ship them. And that's going to have nationwide appeal because they're going to be take and bake pizzas. I'm just going to provide him. He was only doing it for the large sizes. So I did reformat and make a large one. He's going to make the pizzas. He's going to ship them. It's going to be all over the country. It's crazy. So in the process right now of getting all those labels created, I'm going to have to take the pizzas to the food lab at K-State and have them get my nutritional panel. And so that was just a great way to go, oh my gosh, instead of just me selling pizza crust, this is going to have a national reach now, because the distribution to get this pizza crust all over the country, it's going to take a while. It just takes a while. But now I can expand my brand and have people, lady in Hawaii, it's like, can you mail me a pizza? I'm not sure about Hawaii, but we're going to try.
Will, do you think you'll continue some of the things that you've begun during this season?
Go ahead.
I'm not sure, because right now my focus is to get on with Cisco, and I think when I get on with Cisco, then I'm just going to be just like so busy. So these were really just things to go and earn just a little bit here and a little bit there, and to expand my brand. And I think
that's a great illustration of a pivot, though, because a pivot is basically responding to the market.
Yeah, and I think if the restaurants open back up, they have their own menu items now that they don't necessarily need to focus on the curbside as much as they were. So we'll see.
Will Brown, what about you? What are you going to continue after this is over, if it is?
Yeah, so I'm definitely going to plan on kind of testing and learning and applying those learnings in this virtual consultation type of role. I think the template is set, so I can really kind of change that out and make it about any specific thing. Like I could totally see doing like a holiday one, right? Where it's like if someone wanted some tips on how to transform, their space for the holidays, I think that would be something great. Something else that it's kind of got me thinking about is how could I do sort of online workshops, and I think feng shui is something that can be taught in a workshop format. And I think it's something that's intriguing, and part of my role I see in feng shui is to really kind of demystify some of the ancient sort of the veil of mystery around it. There's so many different schools, so really kind of focusing in on the school that I'm going to and that sort of discipline, and then really kind of helping to bring that to kind of our Midwest culture, and having people get excited about applying some of those easy and logical solutions to their own home. So yeah.
So that's a great pivot. We'll go into the innovate section, because sounds like you're still finding additional ways to pivot within all of this, which was going to be my next question. And I think each of you have kind of demonstrated that what is the mindset that a small business owner needs to have? You all seem to have just come across this naturally, and maybe you haven't even given it that much thought as to what it is that has enabled you to do this. But let's start with Trish. Trish, what advice do you have to another small business owner?
Um, I think one thing I found very helpful is just to pay attention to what other people within my field are doing. Things like my virtual shopping, that I don't think that's something I came up with. I'm fairly certain I borrowed that from a yarn store somewhere else in the country. And just, kind of being aware of what's going on and trying things too. We tried it out. I offered, we also do like one-on-one help sessions, and we charge money for that. But for the first few of those that we did virtually via Zoom, I offered people to get a gift certificate in the amount that they paid for the thing, just to be our guinea pig, recognizing that there were probably going to be some complications and we're still working out all the details. So I wanted to incentivize people to sign up and let us try to help them, but also recognizing that, this might not be as successful or worth the full amount.
Were there some things that didn't work?
For the most part, no. I think it's mostly been about being realistic with our customers about what we can help them with remotely. You can imagine if somebody is learning a new knitting technique, oftentimes it's most helpful to have them right there with you where you can see their hands clearly. You can hold their hands, maybe if they're needing to adjust how their body is moving. And obviously you can't do that remotely. And even now that we're open, we're not doing that because we're maintaining social distancing. So a lot of it is just managing expectations. We're very lucky in that we have a very loyal customer base who are very patient with us and understand. I think as the coronavirus situation continues, I'll be very interested to see sort of, does that patience continue? Do we have to continue pivoting as time goes on? I think now we're still within that zone of people being very forgiving to us, but 6 months from now, people might just be fed up with this and we might need to rethink things.
Will, what advice do you have to someone else in a small business thinking through this? What's the mindset they need to have?
Yeah, I think you need to be agile, and I think you need to have your antenna up. I came from a corporate career, so I have worked in a couple of different companies and on one particular assignment, I was on the Futures Council. And basically, a Futures Council was a group of sort of forward thinkers who really got into a room and really was thinking about disruptions that are, 3 to 5 years out. And so I naturally, I think, have a gravitational pull towards asking like, what's going to happen, or a natural sort of curiosity. So I find myself kind of pulling from different areas. So, technology, societal, political, all these different sort of buckets. And I kind of keep an eye and ear to the ground in terms of what's happening in those areas, because those will ultimately kind of come back to, impact business. So that was one of the things for societal, for example, with all the civil unrest that's going on now, how that sort of plays out is that people need a place where they can feel at home and safe and create that sanctuary. So that's, for example, how I was able to sort of take that thread and pull it through to find ways to make it applicable, for my business.
Yeah,
so.
That's great. That's very creative. Laura, I know you to be just a go-getter of a hardworking gal, but I also know that it's not just random. So what goes on in that head? What advice do you have for other small business owners?
I don't know what kind of drive this is that I have, but I don't know. I guess no, I don't know the word no. People say, oh, it's so hard. It's so hard. I'm like, okay, but things are hard. So I really listen to my sense of panic. Oh, I have no customers now because my customers are other small business owners. So for me, I have a lot of empathy for their situation because they were suffering just as much as I was suffering. And so that led me to think, how can we help each other? So it's kind of a sense of small business community that's like, oh my gosh, they're not selling anything. I'm not selling anything.
Mhm.
So what can I offer them that's going to allow them to sell stuff and bring customers in? And that's where the curbside pizza take and bake.
I think that is so key in this pivot and in business is listening to the market. And the market includes your cohorts. It's not just the people who are buying from you. And each one of you have talked about learning from other people doing something similar to you, paying attention to the signs around you on all different levels, and then just being willing to be innovative and try some things.
Mhm.
I think the businesses that a small business that I've observed that have had the most difficult time are the ones that have frozen in place during this time and have wanted to try to just keep doing things as they are, hoping for the best. It's kind of that shut your eyes and pull the covers over your head. But this has all gone on much longer than probably any of us ever anticipated. And there's really not an end in sight right now. So I commend all three of you. I think you're ahead of the curve, so to speak, in your business. So good job. What an inspiration each of you are. I was excited that all three of you agreed to come on today because I knew your stories and I find great inspiration in all three of you. So thank you for being on today. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
We're going to just finish up here with the engaged portion of where can you learn more. Is there a particular resource that any one of you, just wave at me if you want to answer on this, that you're like, oh, this was so helpful to me during this time? And I'm throwing it out to all three of you.
You, Joel?
Yeah, I could say Joel.
I mean, honestly.
Being available, I think Joel, yeah, you're sort of one of my business coaches and mentors. So I think we set up coffee and just touch base periodically. I think you also have your finger on the pulse in terms of what's happening, not just locally, but nationally in terms of how the program ties in. So it's been great to kind of be able to tap into you. And one other thing that's been great is just staying connected to the community. I think it's a small, but it's a very connected community. A lot of my business has been through referrals. So, helping others. I do feel that all boats rise. So if someone else, has, a great kudos, then make sure that you reach out to let them know, congratulations. All of that is just sort of paying it forward. And then that's a part of the community, I think, that we all live in. So. And
Laura, what were you going to say? I'm not fishing for compliments. I just wanted to know what you were going to say.
Well, I don't even, when I was leaving my career in television, I was so scatterbrained, but that's a pretty big shift. I'm in my 50s. And so I don't even know how I got led to you, Joel, but just being able to sit in front of somebody and be able to admit how clueless I was and to not have you point and laugh at me. But you recognized some things in me that I didn't know were strengths. And so that was encouraging. And you were able to you were able to speak on my very basic level and direct me in ways that I would have been just floundering around.
Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate those kind words. And Trish, any
Yeah, I'm lucky to work with 4 very talented women who work in my shop with me, and I talk to them. I got feedback from them. They've had amazing ideas. We're doing this Yarn Social Bingo program this summer, which is just a way to encourage people to make things, talk about what they're making, participate in activity, and it's something that people can do remotely. So it's working really well and really creating a great dialogue amongst our customers. So, and that was all the idea of one of my coworkers. So that's amazing. And also I listen to my customers. Again, we have regular check-ins with customers twice a week, and they've had suggestions. They've had great ideas, things that I definitely hadn't considered, or things that I thought about but sort of discounted, thinking nobody would be interested. And they've pointed out that, no, that's something we would very much like to do. So, these are things that I've been doing all along. This isn't new to this situation. I think the community that we are part of have amazing ideas, and I am happy to steal from them whenever they're willing to give it up. And then to Will's point, I think I completely agree about the rising tide lifts all boats. They're my so-called competitors in the city. You know, everybody offers something different, and we really do try to work together. And I celebrate their successes. We commiserate over issues. And so having that network is always helpful, but I would say particularly now, because it's just nice to know other people are having the same struggles that we are, but also I can learn from what's working for them.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. I appreciate that. I want to let everybody know that you too can connect with the Small Business Development Center. A lot of what Will and Laura and Trish, all three have come through the center in different areas, gone either through classes or just reached out for counseling, and the business development consulting is free. There's no charge for it. And this is what we do. What Will and Laura talked about, it's really not about me, it's about the center, and we just are connected to so many resources that we can help get you connected to. I also want to thank our partner, KC SourceLink, in this venture, because KC SourceLink exists to get you connected to the resources that are available in the Kansas City area. And I always tell people there are over 200 and some organizations dedicated to entrepreneurship in some form. And KC SourceLink exists to get you connected to those. So take advantage of the resources that are here. Support these local businesses that we've highlighted today. We'll be posting this on our YouTube channel and on social media. Thank you to Will, Laura, and Trish for being my guests today.
Oh,
And all right, we got a dog making us out. Next week, we'll be talking about evaluating your business insurance needs. So join us next Tuesday at 4 o'clock for Better Together Tuesdays. Thanks, everybody. Have a beautiful Tuesday afternoon.
bye, guys.
Thanks for inviting us.